Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa. I'm Clarisse Fortuné. First, the headlines. Initially, South African police claimed that anti-apartheid activist Steve Biko died after banging his head against a wall. They later admitted to having assaulted him while he was in custody. Now, 48 years later, a new inquest into his death is underway, potentially paving the way for the prosecution of those responsible. South Sudan's opposition rejects treason and murder charges against Vice-President Riek Machar, calling them fabricated. Some fear the indictment could reignite the country's civil war. They're armed with their pens and a wealth of stories to share. A group of young Togolese are reinventing African storytelling by moving away from clichés and creating illustrations that resonate with children. He was a symbol of resistance during South Africa's apartheid era. Steve Biko died nearly 50 years ago while in police custody. Initially, South African police had claimed that the anti-apartheid activist had died after banging his head against a wall. They later admitted to having assaulted Biko. Today, a new inquest into his death is underway, potentially paving the way for the prosecution of those responsible. The new inquiry could finally shed light on what really happened in 1977 and whether justice is still possible today. Tom Kennedy has more in Cape Town.
The fact that 48 years after his death, justice still hasn't been carried out for Steve Biko's family forms part of a broader frustration for many South Africans who argue that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which was established after the fall of the apartheid regime, hasn't led to enough convictions of people guilty of apartheid-era crimes. So the fact that this case has been reopened on the anniversary of his death has been welcomed by those South Africans who are still demanding justice. It also comes at a time where President Cyril Ramaphosa is facing more pressure to follow through with the cases recommended for prosecution by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Steve Biko was the founder of the Black Consciousness Movement, and he was arrested in 1977 when he was on his way to a political meeting. He died 1 month later in police custody, and an inquiry at the time accepted the police's version of events, which were that he fell over and hit his head, and that's how he died. However, 20 years later, during the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, police admitted that they had beaten him before he died. Yet still today, no one has been convicted over his death, which was one of the most notorious apartheid-era killings, which helped garner international opposition against the apartheid regime. On the 15th of November, the Eastern Cape High Court will meet to lay out the legal framework for how this inquiry will take place.
In Kenya, police have exhumed at least 9 bodies, including 2 children, linked to the Shakahola forest massacre. The remains were found near Malindi, not far from the site where more than 400 people died in 2023 after followers of self-proclaimed Pastor Paul Mackenzie were starved in one of the world's worst cult tragedies. Mackenzie has pleaded not guilty to manslaughter charges at his ongoing trial in Mombasa. 11 of his followers are now in custody as investigators dig for more victims.
In the first instance, over 500 people are believed to be dead. And in the second instance, we are almost heading towards the 40-50. We have also not seen a situation where suspects escape and then they go and commit the same offense they committed the first time around. And even as we speak, there are 8 others who are being sought by the police who are at large.
In South Sudan, the opposition has dismissed treason and murder charges against Vice-President Riek Machar as fabricated and politically motivated. Machar, under house arrest since March, was indicted this week over an ethnic militia attack that killed more than 250 soldiers. His party says the case is designed to derail the fragile power-sharing deal with President Salva Kiir and pave the way for authoritarian rule. Our regional correspondent Bastien Renouy reports.
Riek Machar had been under house arrest for more than 5 months. But what exactly is the South Sudanese government accusing him of? Well, according to South Sudanese authorities, Riek Machar is behind an attack committed by the White Army on a South Sudanese military base earlier this year. The White Army is a rebel group linked to Riek Machar. In March, they attacked a military base in the north of the country, killing more than 250 soldiers, including a general, and also killing a United Nations helicopter pilot. According to the South Sudanese government, Machar ordered the attack, so they accuse him of murder, of conspiracy, terrorism acts, and crimes against humanity, among other charges. That's not true, according to the SPLM-IO. It's Riek Machar's political party. They say that these charges are politically motivated and that the peace deal signed in 2018 between Riek Machar, who was the head of the opposition at that time, and Salva Kiir, the South Sudanese president, may collapse. This peace deal ended a civil war that killed 400,000 people between 2013 and 2018. But the South Sudanese government says that this is not politically motivated. They say that this trial will send a clear message to everyone in South Sudan. And I quote the Minister of Justice. He says, "Those who commit atrocities against the people of South Sudan, against our armed forces, against humanitarian personnel, will be held accountable no matter their position or political influence."
And in other news, in brief, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the court was due to give its ruling in the trial of Joseph Kabila, but decided to postpone the hearing until September 19th. The Congolese state's lawyers requested to increase their claim for damages from 25 billion to $30 billion. They also requested that the charges of treason be reclassified as espionage. They believe that Joseph Kabila's nationality is now a matter of debate. The former president is accused, among other things, of complicity with the M23 group supported by Rwanda. He faces the death penalty. And staying in the DRC, more than 100 people have died after a whaleboat caught fire on the Congo River near Malange village in Lukolela territory. 146 people are now missing as the search operations continued on Friday. The accident comes days after at least 86 people died in a separate shipwreck on Wednesday night. And from now on, African travelers entering Burkina Faso will no longer pay visa fees. The government says the move is meant to boost trade, tourism, and regional integration. Ouagadougou hopes the decision will strengthen ties with neighbors and ease mobility across the continent. And the move is also being pushed by the African Union. Earlier this year, Ghana said all African passport holders will now be able to visit without needing a visa. Kenya introduced a visa-free policy, and African visitors to Rwanda also do not need a visa to enter the country. Now to Togo to meet this group of young people, pens in hand and with many stories to tell. In a small animation studio in Lomé, they set themselves to tell the story of Africa in a different way, far from clichés, with drawings. Clemence Valeur has more of this inspiring journey to bring to life stories that speak to the new generation.
Artists in this small animation studio in Lomé aim to break down stereotypes about the African continent.
We want to show an Africa that creates, innovates and participates in building the world, which is the opposite of the image of Africa as a place of famine and war.
Here, cartoons are inspired by everyday life or by the vast repertoire of African myths.
The creativity comes from everything we have read, everything we have experienced, our own history, and also, well, the history that comes from our culture.
The artists juggle multiple roles: illustrator, animator, and even voice actor.
We sometimes take on high school students, especially those with prerequisites in drawing. And when they hear about our studio, they come, we train them, and then put them to work on projects.
While talent isn't an issue, financing is. The studio operates thanks to revenue from advertising spots that are commissioned from them, but have no regional or state financial help. However, its director is reluctant to accept subsidies from abroad. He doesn't want to run the risk of losing his independence and identity.
And now to this amazing story and the wheels of change in Senegal. Amid the chaos of the country's streets and roads, it's about a team of heroes pedal near the ground, slaloming between vehicles and able-bodied cyclists. Driving their bikes with their arms or their prosthetics, they are the center of attention along the route leading them from Dakar all the way to Ziguinchor, 450 kilometers to the south, a challenge for Edmond, Mohamed and Makumba, members of the Senegalese paracycling team, and one goal, to make paracycling visible. And France 24's Sarah Sacco has followed them on their journey.
My name is Makumba Sarr, I'm 42 years old, and I'm the captain of Senegal's national paracycling team. It's Senegal's first paracycling team. We're the pioneers. We're about to embark on the famous Dakar-Ziguinchor-Dakar route, which is a huge challenge for both us and able-bodied athletes.
Please, hey guys. We're going to do 914 kilometers, God willing. We've got an escort, but that's not enough to guarantee our safety. Trucks can drive by at any time. That's why I'm asking everyone, ride 2 by 2, and let's go steadily.
All right, guys, here we go. Stay close together, watch out for each other, and let's move. Stay strong, everyone, and we'll make it.
Let's go.
Here in Senegal, lots of people marginalize those with disabilities. They see you as someone who can't do anything, someone who's useless in some ways. And that's something that really, really hurts. We chose paracycling to be seen, so people can see that those with disabilities in Senegal can do extraordinary things. And that's part of the fight for us as the paracycling team, to help change how things are.
And you can catch the full report on our program Reporters, also available on our website. And that concludes today's edition for Eye on Africa. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned to France 24.